Black widower takes in hungry triplets and their mother, unaware that she will change his life. Marcus Evans' fist pounded against the door of his own home as two burly security guards held his arms on the sidewalk. Three small children clung desperately to their mother, a white woman with brown hair begging for mercy. "Please, my children can't stay out in the cold," Sarah cried, hugging the 4-year-old triplets to her chest. The November rain fell mercilessly, and the little one shivered under a soaked blanket. "Hey, that's my house," protested Marcus, a 45-year-old black man whose eyes bore the recent pain of losing his wife Elena just 3 months earlier. "Who the hell do you think you are?" The Biff, a short man with a thin mustache, approached him, brandishing a document. "The bank is foreclosed on the mortgage, Mr. Evans. This property now belongs to the Richmond Financial Group." Marcus felt the world collapse around him for the second time in just a few months. First, Elena, victim of a devastating cancer, and now his home's last refuge filled with her memories. But something in the scene before him awakened a long-dormant protective instinct. The children, wet and frightened, seemed even more helpless than he was. "Are you evicting her too?" Marcus asked, pointing to Sarah. Mrs. Williams lived in the back apartment, the officer explained with bureaucratic indifference. The entire property had been foreclosed. At that moment, Marcus' eyes met Sarah's, two strangers united by the same cruel fate, by the same ruthless institution. The triplets, Lily, Noah, and Emma, huddled against their mother, their faces pale with cold and fear. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked, his voice controlled despite the boiling anger inside him. "You have 1 hour to gather your personal belongings. After that, the property will be sealed." That was when Marcus Evans, a retired accountant and recent widower, made the most impulsive decision of his methodical life. "Come with me, all of you." Sarah hesitated, confused. "Where?" "My brother-in-law has a cabin on the lake. It's small, but it has a fireplace. Better than staying out in the rain with the children." What no one at that moment could have imagined, neither the security guards, nor the Biff, nor the all-powerful Richmond Financial Group, was that they had just brought together two people whose intertwined histories would reveal secrets capable of bringing down a corrupt banking empire. Secrets Elena Evans had discovered weeks before she died, and Sarah Williams carried unknowingly in a folder of seemingly insignificant documents. As they hurriedly gathered clothes and supplies, Marcus couldn't help but notice how Sarah moved around the house with a disconcerting familiarity, like she knew every corner, every drawer. The way she looked at Elena's photo on the shelf wasn't the look of a stranger, but of someone holding memories. If you think this is just another story about cruel evictions and helpless families, get ready. What's coming will make you question everything you think you know about coincidences, justice, and how sometimes fate uses devious paths to bring the right pieces together on the board of revenge. If this beginning has already moved you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will leave you speechless. The security guards watched impatiently as two shattered lives tried to fit into hastily packed suitcases, unaware that in that November rain, an alliance was being forged, one that, in a few months, would shake the rotten foundations of the financial system that was now ejecting them. The rain drummed on the roof of the Ford as Marcus navigated the winding road, the triplets asleep in the back seat under soggy blankets, while Sarah hugged the briefcase to her chest. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We barely know each other, and we're already running away together." "The real criminals are drinking whiskey in their offices," Marcus replied bitterly. "How long have you lived in the back apartment?" 3 years, since I was left alone with the triplets." Lightning flashed across the sky, and the folder slipped, scattering papers. Marcus slowed down, his eyes catching something, the Richmond Financial logo on a memo marked confidential. Operation Clean Sweep. "Where'd you get this?" His voice trembled. Sarah blushed. "I clean their offices. I keep papers with one side blank for the kids to draw on." Marcus grabbed the document, devouring every line. It was a plan for the systematic foreclosure of mortgages in neighborhoods with minorities and single-parent families, dated 8 months ago, before Elena got sick. "Do you have more documents like this? A whole folder? Why?" The phone vibrated. Jack, his brother-in-law. "You're on the news. The CEO of Richmond is bragging about cleaning up undesirable elements from the neighborhood. Call David Reeves, the lawyer who defended Elena against the hospital, the one who sues corporations. Exactly. We have the nuclear bomb he's always been looking for. 2 days later, in the modest cabin, documents scattered across the table. David Reeves, a lawyer famous for taking down corporate giants, examined each piece of paper. This is financial genocide, he muttered, adjusting his glasses, deliberately targeting blacks, Latinos, and single mothers. Sarah nearly spilled her coffee. It wasn't a coincidence. Look at the dates, Marcus pointed out. Elena was investigating this. She was a financial analyst before she got sick. David looked up, and her treatment was denied 3 times by her insurance. Who runs that insurance? Richmond Financial Group, Marcus replied coldly. That night, Sarah found Marcus on the porch, gazing out at the frozen lake. Do you think Elena's death wasn't just cancer? I don't know, but she was gathering evidence, and you showed up with the missing pieces. What do we do now? Marcus turned his eyes, shining with determination. We destroyed them, all of them. The next day, Richmond Financial held a press conference. Richard Sterling III, CEO, in his Italian suit, smiled for the cameras. We celebrate the success of Operation Clean Sweep. We've revitalized neighborhoods, creating opportunities for serious investors and removing impediments to progress. A reporter asked about discrimination. Sterling laughed. Nonsense. We follow financial criteria. If certain demographics are affected, maybe they should make better choices. Marcus turned off the TV with a bang. Better choices? Elena works 60 hours a week. David smiled predatorily. You know what's better than suing a corporation? Destroying it with its own weapons. Sarah then made a crucial discovery at the bottom of the folder. A black flash drive. Secure Elena Evans. Marcus choked. The flash drive revealed everything. Spreadsheets, emails, recordings. Elena had documented meetings where executives laughed about cleaning up the human trash, offshore transfers, money laundering. One recording was particularly disturbing, Sterling saying, "That Mexican analyst is digging too deep. If she keeps digging, she'll find the bones we buried. Maybe it's time to show her what happens to people who don't know their place." Sarah cried. They killed his wife. Marcus stared at a photo of Elena on the screen. The file was called Operation Justice, How to Bring Down an Empire. Outside, the snow was beginning to melt. Sterling and his cronies were toasting in their skyscraper, unaware that in a humble cabin, 3 ordinary people were about to enact Elena's plan. The documents that would destroy them had been saved from the trash by a single mother they deemed undesirable, exactly the kind of person they had sworn to eliminate. Karma, it seems, chooses the most unlikely messengers to deliver its justice. But if gathering evidence was enough to topple a billion-dollar empire, prepare yourself. What would happen in the coming weeks would prove that sometimes justice needs more than documents. It needs a trap so perfect that even the victims would applaud its execution. The Richmond Financial Group press conference was packed. Richard Sterling III took the podium with his usual arrogant smile, unaware that in the last 48 hours, a devastating virus had infiltrated every system in the company, a virus called truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to celebrate the conclusion of Operation Clean Sweep and announce expansion into 5 more cities. Sterling began adjusting his tie. At exactly 10:03 as planned, the screens behind him flickered. Instead of the corporate logo, Elena Evans' face appeared, followed by her words, "If you're watching this, I didn't survive to tell the story. But the truth always finds a way." Sterling turned pale. Technical problems, turn it off, but the technicians, secretly instructed by David Reeves, kept everything running. Documents appeared, internal memos, spreadsheets, demographic maps marked in red. Elena's recorded voice narrated each piece of evidence. Richmond Financial Group developed an algorithm to identify neighborhoods with high minorities and single mothers, calling it responsible urban cleansing. Journalists became agitated. Cameras flashed. Sterling tried to leave the stage, but found the doors discreetly locked. The presentation continued, emails discussing how to eliminate undesirable elements through forced gentrification. Then came the final blow, audio recordings of secret meetings. Sterling's voice echoed, "We need to get rid of that Mexican analyst. She's digging too deep." "If she finds out about the offshore accounts," another executive responded, "how about an accident? Something discreet." Sterling said, "No, let's go the medical route. We have contacts at the hospital. Deny her experimental treatment, nature will take care of the rest." A gasp rippled through the room. Sterling, pale, grabbed the microphone. "This is fabricated deep fake." But the next recording silenced him. It was a phone call between him and the hospital director discussing Elena Evans and how to delay her medical approvals indefinitely. At 10:15, FBI agents entered. Sarah Williams was with them, dressed professionally now, no longer the cleaning lady who saved papers from the trash, but the key witness who preserved crucial evidence. Richard Sterling III announced, "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, systematic discrimination, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder." As they handcuffed him, he shouted, "You don't understand. It was just business, maximizing profits." From the shadows, Marcus Evans stepped forward, walking calmly toward Sterling. His eyes met those of the man who had orchestrated his wife's death. "Business," Marcus repeated, his voice calm but charged with emotion. Elena was 42 years old. She loved gardening and classical music. She spent her Sundays teaching math to underprivileged children. "She was my life." Sterling finally lowered his head, understanding the gravity of his actions. "You know what the irony is?" Marcus continued. "You called us undesirable elements, but it was people like us, like a cleaning lady saving paper for her children, to bring down your empire." Cameras flashed as Sterling was escorted out. On the screens, the scene continued, showing all the families affected by Operation Clean Sweep, hundreds who lost their homes. David Reeves approached the microphone. "What you saw today is only the beginning. We have evidence linking Richmond Financial to a network of corruption involving politicians, judges, and other corporate executives." Sarah, holding Marcus's hand for support, added, "This isn't just our victory. It's the victory for every community silenced, marginalized, and considered disposable." That afternoon, Richmond Financial stock plummeted 87%. Within 24 hours, all assets were frozen. The corporate headquarters, ironic, would become a community center for evicted families. Sarah's triplets, Lily, Noah, and Emma, watched everything on TV from the cabin, not fully understanding but sensing that something very important had happened, something that would change their lives and the fate of thousands of families. At 6 p.m., a spontaneous vigil gathered outside the former Richmond Financial office. Hundreds of candles, many victims of Operation Clean Sweep, centered around a photo of Elena Evans surrounded by flowers. No one could have imagined that this moment of justice was not the end, but the beginning of something much larger. And the FBI seized files, connections to other corporations, schemes, victims waiting for justice, waiting for their turn. Marcus Evans, the retired accountant mourning his wife, now found himself at the forefront of a movement bigger than he had ever imagined. Justice, it seems, is like water. It always finds a way, sometimes using the most unlikely messengers to reveal truths the powerful would rather keep buried forever. 6 months later, the former Richmond Financial Group office was transformed, exactly what Richard Sterling III had feared most, a vibrant community center. Where once executives discussed how to clean up undesirable elements, now families participated in financial literacy, legal aid, and art classes for children. Marcus Evans, appointed director, watched from the window of what had been Sterling's office. Sarah Williams, now coordinator of social programs, organized the opening of the new children's wing, the Lena Evans space, in honor of the woman whose posthumous courage had sparked it all. Ironic, isn't it? Sarah carried a stack of registration forms. "A year ago, I was cleaning these floors at midnight. Now I'm helping to transform lives." The triplets ran down the hallway, laughing and playing with other children, beneficiaries of the reparation fund created from the assets seized from Richmond. The court had ruled that every family affected by Operation Clean Sweep would not only get their homes back, but also compensation for moral and material damages. Richard Sterling III, now in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, was brought in to perform community service, part of his 25-year sentence. The judge had ordered him to spend 2 afternoons a week serving meals to those he once called human trash. Hesitant at the entrance, his face marked by months of humiliation and shame, his elite friends vanished, his assets confiscated, his family shamed. His wife had even filed for divorce, taking their children to Europe. Marcus greeted him kindly. "Welcome to the Elena Evans Community Center," he said calmly. "You'll be working in the kitchen today." Don Maria, who was evicted 2 years prior, would teach him how to serve. Sterling lowered his head, unable to meet Marcus's gaze as they walked past colorful murals painted by children, among them a portrait of Elena smiling, surrounded by butterflies. In the community kitchen, Doña Maria, a 68-year-old Latino woman, handed Sterling an apron. "You serve with respect," she instructed. "Look people in the eye, smile, ask if they want more." Over the next few hours, Sterling served meals to hundreds, many recognizing him from the news. Some muttered, others simply watched. An elderly black woman stopped before him, studying his face. "You took my house," she said simply. "My grandchildren had to sleep in shelters for 3 months." Sterling swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." "Feeling sorry doesn't change the past," she replied. "But serving can change the future. Keep working." At 5 p.m., the center buzzed with activity. David Reeves led a workshop on consumer rights in the children's library. Sarah read stories to a group of captivated kids in the auditorium. Former Richmond Financial employees, now repentant, gave lectures on business ethics. Marcus found Sterling washing dishes in the kitchen, his previously manicured hands now red from hot water. "You know," Marcus said, "Elena always believed people can change. True justice isn't just punishment, but transformation." Sterling paused, tears welling. "I destroyed so many lives." "Yes, you did," Marcus replied. "But now you have a chance to help rebuild them. Use it well." That evening, after the center closed, Marcus and Sarah walked together to Elena's makeshift memorial in the garden. Fresh flowers were left daily by grateful people. "She saved us all," Sarah said softly, arranging daisies. Even after she was gone, Marcus nodded, holding her hand. "She taught us that true revenge isn't destroying those who hurt us, but building something so beautiful that their evil becomes irrelevant." A year later, the Richmond case had become a national example of restorative justice. Documentaries, laws, and policies had changed. Elena's flash drive had sparked a wave of reform across the predatory financial system. After 2 years of community service, Sterling had visibly transformed. On his last day before returning to prison, he approached Marcus. "I know I can never fully undo the harm I caused, but I want you to know Elena was right about everything." The same day, Sarah received a letter from the federal government. The FBI had uncovered a larger network of corruption through the Richmond files. She and Marcus were invited to lead a national task force against systemic financial discrimination. From cleaning lady to federal leader, she laughed, showing Marcus the letter. "Who would have thought Elena would have?" he replied, smiling for the first time since her departure. "She always saw the extraordinary in ordinary people." What started as personal tragedy and systemic injustice became a movement for change. Marcus and Sarah didn't just survive the storm. They turned it into rain, nourishing a new beginning for thousands. The ultimate irony, Sterling's cleanup plan ended up cleaning up the corrupt system he represented. Sometimes justice has a peculiar sense of humor. And as Elena always said, the truth is like water, it finds a way. If this story of courage, justice, and transformation touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the biggest changes start with ordinary people refusing to accept the unacceptable. Who knows? The next Elena, the next Marcus, the next Sarah could be